Well, it's first of all, you are right that black women generally, including the mothers that I've spoken to about it, they generally take it as an insult to them.
No way.
Like you chose the opposite of what I am. I mean, whether it is,
Wow.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is an insult to them, but that's how a lot of black women take it.
Wow.
I'm talking about the mothers, even like they like it says. But I think there's a few things, and again, you think I'm here to play around with y'all? God damn ya!
Wait. It's absolutely absurd. I'm done. I'm over it. Hi everyone, welcome back to Themis and Thought. Grab your coffee, water, tea, whatever you're drinking, go and get that. Today we're going to be talking about concern trolling.
To black women on the NFL and NBA draft days when the men are transitioning into the league, they turn and kiss their mama and they turn and hug that white woman, right? We see it all over, and it pissed black women off. You see black Twitter, shade room comments, and see people be slick. Like shade room, they know what they do. They'll just post congratulations to
Yeah.
Todd Turner, and they'll make sure they zoom in on him hugging that white girl, right? They don't even mention her, but you see the comments light up because people pissed off. Another one gone, right?
Concern trolling is the idea that the expression of concern by these men are disingenuous at best, and it is an attempt to evoke some kind of emotion for engagement that ultimately undermines whatever it is that on the surface it looks like they're advocating for. It is unclear if there's an advocacy here, but there is an implied sense of camaraderie with black women insofar as the topic being discussed. Black men are dating out. At least that's the conversation being had. The push here is to have black women ask the question, why don't black men want us? This way, you put yourself as a black woman in the position of performing for the of a man. The question they want you as a black woman to ask is, why does this black man or that black man not want me? Thus, you become a contortionist. You start to contort yourself into all kinds of shape in an effort to fit whatever it is, their criteria, whatever it is that they say they want from a woman. Instead of reflecting on how we as black men can be better community members, we externalize the issue onto black women. All our problems, fears, and even failures can be reorganized in our mind as not an us issue, but a them issue because they, black women, just need to be better. This is a sick and twisted way of engagement online, particularly because of all the black women who respect and love black men and look to black men for suggestion on how they, black women, can be better women for these black men so these black men do not leave them. We'll get to what the issue really is in a moment. But if you're thinking maybe this has to do with internalized racism, that is my thesis, but we'll get to the research shortly. And we do know that black women are asking for suggestion because all you have to do is go to the comment section of this video that we're watching, and you will see black women time and again engaging in trying to understand how they can be better for black men, fighting for their lives in these comments, trying to figure out how to keep their black men. I think a larger conversation that should be included in this is the fact that a lot of black women have bought into patriarchy, and specifically around black men being leaders and the leadership of men. Therefore, if you want to be led by a man, you have to find a man that can lead you. And if you think that is a black man, then you are going to have to listen to a man to tell you how to be a woman for them to lead. If you don't remember anything from this video, remember this, and I will repeat it. All of this, is concern trolling. That entire channel that we're discussing, those two men, they engage in this kind of concern trolling for one reason and one reason only: to undermine the dignity of black women using religion specifically. We will get to religion at some later date as I continue to deconstruct my own religious views.
Around the mindset, what are some of the things those brothers are saying when you in that sports world on why they chose, even though they got that black mama, that whole black family in that black living room, but they got that white girl sitting on the couch? Have you ever had a conversation to why they chose to make that decision?
That this clip was clipped and posted independently, we'll get to the answer in a moment, is indicative of the concern trolling that I mentioned earlier, because it is to farm engagement. All of this is to farm engagement. And this farming of engagement is happening on black women's back. So, a better way to state what I just said more concisely is that these men know how to trigger black women into engaging on their platform to push their video in the algorithm. The question now becomes to the black women who are in the comments arguing, which I don't want to put all the comments up because the video is already going to be longer than I want it to be. Who are you arguing with in the comments? And why are you arguing in the comments? If you're defending yourself against these men, defending black womanhood against these men, what do you think that does? If you are accepting their reality about whatever is going to come next around why black men choose to date out when they're playing football or basketball or in the sports realm, as they call it, what does commenting under this video do for you? Like, the moment you comment, it's the moment they gain that which they wanted from the video being posted the way it has. It is about engagement. Your engagement in the comment, whether negatively or positively, whether affirming their position or fighting with them against their position, is beneficial to them ultimately for their channel. It is to shame you and to undermine your dignity. You and your feelings do not matter at all to these people. The only thing that matters is that you type something in the comment section. Whether that was your anger, frustration, or sadness, it all works as a way to get them engagement. This is fake empathy that encapsulates a kind of doomsday scenario around dating, framed in a question for maximum impact in terms of engagement. Willing black women to become complacent, allowing men to move the goalpost while you perform for some kind of acceptance from these men. These are the men who will lie and engage in the most reductive form of analyzing statistic. They will say things like, no, black men aren't marrying out. 85% of black men are marrying black women, completely ignoring the qualifying statement regarding the 85%, which is of the men who are married. That is a very specific limiting factor that reduces the amount of men being married in the black community to less than 30%. So it is insane to me that those people who would argue you down about there not being an epidemic of men marrying out would also use the idea that black men are marrying out, i.e. other races, to make an argument to shame black women. That is insane to me. However, because this interview is low risk, which means that there is not much pushback and people aren't thinking about the stat generally to attack quote-unquote black men, the risk is low in terms of blowback around the stat that men are dating out. So they get to use this idea that men are dating out to shame black women, but in an actual debate, if you bring it up, they will completely fight you on it and say 85% of black men, ignoring the who are married, marry black women. No engagement in the most likely to date out of any group of men are in comparison to black women, which is the per capita engagement that we generally talk about when we bring up the marriage stat. 2 times as likely to marry out as black women is essentially what we're going for based on the Pew Research. So because they didn't do their work, let me try to help them do their work. The athletic stats are kind of harder to deal with around marriage and dating. So it's a rough draft using the NFL and the NBA more broadly because that's the most prominent in terms of how we engage with sports. So I will use Pew and the US Census as a general backdrop for how we're going to do this research-ish, and then we'll come back into the video. The NFL does not have a lot of data in terms of dating, specifically qualitative data, but the black woman, black man marriage rate for the NFL is of particular interest for me because whenever I'm going through the data, when we go to the US Census, when we go through any of the reports from athletes, one of the easy things you could do is find the relationship status of athletes and then find their partners, and it's a long list, and because there's so many NFL athletes, you can go on and on and on and on. But what I wanted to do was simplify my research in the NFL because I already knew there was not a lot of data tracking this information, but what you could do is go to Essence. And one of the articles on Essence, so one of the first places I went to go look as an article to jump off, which I already knew was going to be a problem, was Essence. And Essence had this article a while ago, a couple years ago. And the title of the article says, Black NFL wives do exist. 12 players and their partners we're rooting for, right? And before anyone accuses me of anything, let's go to the Essence article, and we're going to read just a small section in the Essence article that says, and even though the mass majority of WAGs are white women, there are black ones, including a few famous ones, cheering for the men in their lives. It goes on to talk about, we've compiled a few active ones in honor of the new season and a reminder that there are professional athletes who still keep a quote-unquote sister on their arms, and they look mighty good together. All right, so let's look at some of these couples that Essence want us to root for because they have a sister on their arm. Now, at number 2, we have these 2 people. Deanna, I think her name is Deanna Mohammed, and Dion Dawkins. Now, I don't know where the... all right, that's one. Here's another one at number 3, Allie and Eric, the black sister. We have Lauren and Odell Beckham. Now, obviously, this was written in 2002 because that's where the data set was. And then we also have Kendra and Christian. All right. So obviously I didn't show all 12 because the rest of them looked black. There was Russell and Sierra somewhere in there. But there are 12 of them, and at least 4 of them, I am not sure we would classify these people as black. Now, again, I'm not the black police. I don't know if biracial means black for some people. If self-identifying as black means you're black, would Rachel Dolezal be considered black if she were to be married to an NFL player and wrote in black, right? So it's very difficult. Hopefully I'm highlighting the issue with the NFL self-report. The NBA, on the other hand, has something we could look to. So for the NBA in 2020 to 2022, there was a study of, I think it was 300 NBA athletes, and 60 of them were married or dating someone seriously. From that 60, we had 17 were married to black women, 18 were married to biracial or mixed women, and then 25 were married to Asian or white women. What the NBA research here did was it attempted to combine biracial and mixed with black and say over 50% of the NBA player from this study that were married to black women. But in the research, we'll do a ear quote for research, it had black women separated from mixed and biracial, and then it wasn't until the end then they put the two numbers together to say over 50% of married men in the NBA from the 300 that were studied were married to black women. I'm not sure where they got that over 50% in black women, where it obviously highlighted that around 28% were married to black women and not more. This got me thinking on a broader scale. When we hear the 85% of black men are married to black women, of the men who are married, because they keep forgetting to add of the men who are married, which is less than the 30% of black men, I do wonder if biracial, if we disaggregate when we count black women and separate that monoracial to the extent we can define that, and biracial or multiracial women, what the numbers would look like for marriage rate. I haven't done that work, obviously, because this is not that video, but I do think that would be a very good kind of research to engage with. And it's important to know it's harder to do that for me because the Pew Research uses self-ID. So if you are Rachel Dolezal and you wrote black, the Pew Research is going to show you up as black. You're going to show up as black in the Pew Research statistic. And similarly for the US Census, where black becomes a catch-all for anyone who is mixed or biracial, they can also, with a black parent, also jump into the black category. Let's get back to the video. I did all that to point out, I'm so annoying. I did that to point out that there is an argument that these men marry out if, in particular, we counted mixed and biracial people as not black. It's to a much higher degree. But even if you do count them as black, they do marry out at an alarmingly higher level than any other group of men.
Well, it's, first of all, you are right that black women generally, including the mothers that I've spoken to about it, they generally take it as an insult to them.
No way.
Like, you chose the opposite of what I am. I mean, whether it is, I'm not saying it is an insult to them, but that's how a lot of black women take it.
Wow.
I'm talking about the mothers even. Like, it says.
Sorry. Tweedledum is over there talking about, wow, oh my God. This is like widely known. And I don't like people who are this disingenuous on the one hand. On another, it's very annoying when you cut this out, you had this question, you did this entire thing because you knew how black women would respond to it. You already understood the groundwork being laid. You talked to Dr. Umar. Anyone who's heard anything about Dr. Umar knows his position about this and how he talks about dating out and quote-unquote snow bunnies and how black women feel about this. He also talks about black wealth in the black community. But these people interview Dr. Umar. So to sit up there and pretend like this is the first time you're hearing that black mothers or black women would have some kind of bad feeling towards men, a part of the group black men, dating out, is absolutely insane to me. Like, why are you like, wow, oh my God, you knew that. And black men are also upset when black women date out. Let's be very clear. We see this time and again online. They've had multiple episodes talking about interracial dating, and he's sitting up here talking about, wow, oh my God, I can't believe this. Is this true? This is concerned trolling at this point. It's very clear. And it is disingenuous at best and very hateful at worst, putting black women in a position in the comments to defend themselves and engage in conversation about how either they don't care about people dating out or how much they care about black men dating out. Either way, to drive these people in the algorithm based on your emotion.
But I think there's a few things, and again, you fall in love with somebody, you fall in love with them. But I think there's a lot of reasons you see that. And one, a lot of times the brothers go to, big time college program, white school, and a lot of times the white girls are throwing themselves at them, and just really going at them, hard, right?
Okay, so the first explanation is that these men who are in sports go to school in sports, and a lot of white women throw themselves at athletes in uni. A lot of people, everyone, throw themselves at athletes in schools. So that does not answer the question, not even in the least bit. That unless you're gonna say they went to all white schools where only white girls were throwing themselves at them and they only had white girls to choose from, that does not answer the question at all. And he knows this. The question is why. So with the option, why choose this one and not the other? Love could be an answer if you knew the answer. Self-hate could be an answer, again, if you knew the answer, but you are not answering anything right now. And we know that because look at what he's going to say about the second reason and potential explanation. Mind you, this is about sports players. This is about athletes. The question was about athletes. Point blank period, that's it. But listen to what he's going to say, because he doesn't actually have an answer.
And then there's situations where this is not so much with athletes, but just a lot of maybe successful men in the corporate world. A lot of times they might have been, not all, but a lot of brothers might have been nerds. They was smart. They was bookworms, right? And I've heard brothers say this, and sisters wasn't feeling them. They was teasing them. Man, I ain't feel, you ain't cool. They was after the cool brothers, the athletes and all that. And so then they become successful, and now sisters want them, but they like, oh, you wasn't feeling me back in the day while these white girls were, And so that's something brothers have said.
First of all, this is a red herring. We'll get to the red herring bit in a moment. I know that successful men in corporate, they were nerds, smart, bookworm. Where are you finding these smart bookworm men, girl, that no one wanted when they were kids? Also, these two men running a podcast, don't know why, they're asking you about the athletes and why athletes are choosing other races of women and not black women. And instead of answering about athletes, you go to corporate, like wait, why would you? Quickly, as an aside, black women love nerds. It's not a thing that black women don't love nerds. That is not true. Just say the black woman you want didn't want you, and the black woman who wanted you, you did not want. That's it, right? Don't say black women as a general group did not want nerds. Don't do that. But that also highlights another fundamental point that is deeply contradictory to the earlier point that you made, that white women were throwing themselves at athletes. And now in the second part of your answer where you're talking about nerds, you're saying black women don't want nerds. White women want. So white women wanted nerds and athletes in this, but black women only wanted nothing? Because you said white women were throwing themselves at athletes, and you did not say anything about black women throwing themselves at athletes. And that's why athletes, black men, chose white women because they were throwing themselves at them. But in your second response to talk about how black women didn't want nerds, you said the black women were too busy chasing athletes. Again, this is a red herring because none of this matters. You talking about black women not wanting nerds and wanting athletes only serves to undermine your earlier point about white women throwing themselves at athletes, and that's why white women can get athletes and not black women. But then you randomly brought up nerds and corporate people for some reason to further admonish black women for their taste in athletes that you said they did not have in the first answer, or at least implied they did not have in the first answer. If you're accepting that black women did not want nerds and were throwing themselves at athletes, then your first point about white women throwing themselves at athletes seems moot. And at this point, you need to explain. Now, this is an inconsistency. And idiot one and idiot two doing the interview, will they point out this inconsistency in the answer? Will they allow him an opportunity to clarify what it is that he's talking about? Maybe he didn't fully explain what he was saying in part one when he said white women were throwing themselves at athletes, and then part two where he says only white women wanted nerds, or again, black women don't want anyone. Are they going to explain any of this? Are they going to engage in any of this? Absolutely not. Why would they? They have no sense. Like, it is weird to me to sit here and without even thinking deeply about anything that is happening to be able to pick up on some level of contradiction that could meaningfully be explained away if given the opportunity for the speaker to explain it away. But the interviewers do not push back, they don't engage. There is no care at all or curiosity for what is being said.
And then I also think that I mentioned kind of white supremacy and racism being ingrained in Black American culture. You know, I think in our culture, it's not all of us, but a good number of us, light skin and straight hair, or is considered superior. Mm-hmm. And so if you, like, a lot of times a brother might look for a light-skinned sister, right, that's got straight hair or whatever. But think about it. Any white person, white girl, she white and she got straight hair. Any one of them gonna look good. That's why sometimes you've seen brothers with, you wonder, wow.
Why you do that?
She's not as fine, But to him, she got straight hair and her skin is light. Mm-hmm. And so I think all of those things, it's a combination of various things. And again, some brothers just genuinely fall in love with a white woman, and that's fine too. But I just think when you won't date sisters, that's when it's a problem.
Let's be very clear. The last answer was an explanation where white supremacy and being conquered and internalized racism, where the standard of beauty set for a bunch of men, black men, in this scenario weren't set by them. The standard was set by another group of men around another group of men and their women, and so black men just adopted those standards because we never had the opportunity, ability, power to create our own standard of beauty. And even if we did, what would that standard look like is what he's explaining right now, right? It is about conquest, the conqueror and the conquered, and the conquered adopting the conqueror's approach to beauty. I think it is also a keen observation about any white woman would do, because who they really choose seem to suggest that, like, a lot of these people don't have any standards when they date outside of their race for black men. Black men, that is, don't have too high a standard when they're going out and dating other groups of people, where they have a ton of requirements when it comes to black women. The question, though, would be about sort of whether or not these people have different relationships. So if black men have complaints about black women, and as I saw black women writing in the comments asking about why it is and what they could do as black women to make sure that black men stay, just know this. If you don't have white skin and white features, for a lot of those men who are only looking at race, it doesn't matter. Like, you can bend yourself into whatever pretzel you want. It will never be that. And I'm not giving you advice. Please go forth and get chosen, get picked if you must. Don't take my advice. I'm not giving advice. I'm breaking down a very specific issue where there is a contradiction in the response being given about something this man is explaining, and no one is engaging at all with this deep and obvious contradiction in the statements being made. These men get to pretend they're trying to help the community while also shaming and putting down people, saying that they're only trying to understand or they're only asking questions when their question doesn't come with a follow-up, it doesn't come with deep analysis, it doesn't come with an ending in terms of an explanation from the person being interviewed, the interviewer themselves, or even within the comment section, there is no real engagement into the meaning of what is being talked about. Let's say, for example, black men are marrying out. What's the purpose of this? Question. Is it to shame black men? Is it to shame black women? Is it to say they have better relationship, bad relationship? Who are the relationship better for black men with, and why? Why is this being asked, and what do you hope to get from the why? None of that is being answered because it's only there to incite some kind of emotion in the viewer to respond to it. I think this is an undertone of we're trying to get black men back to black women. We're trying to fix whatever problem they think is there. But this is not stated, right? It's implied. It's we are asking questions about how we can keep black men and black women together, but we don't really care about the end, so we're just asking the question so everyone can be triggered by it. This ability to retreat into sort of plausible deniability allows these men to do whatever they want, run amok, use weaponized black emotions in order to belittle black women. And I'm not even a fan of destroying or attacking content creation on the premise of emotion, right? Content that is reliant on emotional reaction. While I don't think they're the best kind of content, I'm not attacking generally those kinds of content. I am, however, annoyed at a willingness to undermine a group of women for absolutely no reason. I'm also doubly annoyed by the fact that I think a lot of women do not pick up on the fact that these men literally do not care anything about them. The light-skinned one was the one talking about he wants to date a younger woman with no money or some foolishness like that because he wants to be able to mold them. But I think a lot of women let these things pass because they believe in patriarchy. I wish I could say stop caring about what these people are saying, even if you're watching for entertainment. But I also know that if you've watched up until this point in my video, you're the type of person who already did that. And you're not the type of person that I need to explain this to. So the women that would need to hear this, not because I have any truth, but it allows you to spark a conversation, hopefully with yourself, about what people are doing in media. This is not about care for you or care for the issue of black women not peering with black men. This is concern trolling. It is taking a problem they think you have, i.e. not being able to date or marry a certain man that you want, and rubbing it in your face, but presenting it as if they're trying to find a solution for you. I hope you can see that, because that's the definition of concern trolling. They do not care. They provide nothing at all in terms of the conversation. But you're going to continue to watch it, and I'm going to continue to review. And so with that, I bid you good night. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That was my take. That was a Tuesday morning take. Go in the comments and give me your take, and let's go back and forth. And let's also read a comment from last week. All right. So my video last week was about the tried wife to single motherhood video where the lady was living in a one-bedroom at her dad's house with 5 kids after her husband gave her an ultimatum about leaving a church. I don't believe none of that. Anywho, this person came to the end of my video. She goes, cry face, sad face, I do not know what Tatiana is. All right. But I could never take a serious ear to how a gay man thinks a black mother should be. Apparently, gay people don't have black mothers, or I don't know. Okay, girl, period. Most of the guys we actually see with this persona comedy, I don't know, aggressively respect. I don't know what they're saying here. I like the comment because of the gay. I don't, but I could never take a serious ear to how a gay man thinks a black mother should be. Why not? Why, you don't think black mothers have gay sons? I don't. I highlighted this because it looked like you don't take seriously either grammar. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, there's a lot of things that look like you don't take seriously, and I don't think a gay man is I think a gay man is the least of your problems. Anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful time. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.